All right, on to week 4. Finally getting towards the end of this horror marathon and looking at what's ahead. There's a lot of stuff I haven't seen. Actually, this week is a lot of movies I have never ever watched before, and that kind of is exciting. It's been kind of mixed of things I've seen, things I haven't seen in the past. A lot of things I haven't seen tended to be like the Carrie and Psycho stuff, which has not been great. So, kind of happy to be doing things that I really want to watch just as me. And Sunday was, well, not that. It was The Howling, a movie I've seen quite a few times. The movie that probably gets the award for the hairiest sex scene ever in a movie. That's the main thing I remember when I think of The Howling, as that's scary. But yeah, that's just really awkward and kind of weird. But that's what I remember The Howling for. Having just watched American Werewolf and knowing that Rick Baker was on The Howling and making The Howling when John Landis called him up, was like, "Hey, dude, you promised me you were going to do my werewolf movie. I'm doing it now. Get your butt over here," and then left The Howling in the hands of Rob Bottin. It's very interesting to kind of look at them as a pair rather than two separate movies as they always have. I've known this fact, but I guess I've never watched them close enough together to have it make any kind of real impact on me. But obviously, American Werewolf was done by the master, and The Howling was done by the apprentice. The polish on the effects just isn't quite there. I mean, I love Rob Bottin's work. Look at The Thing. Look at you know other stuff he's done, but uh, The Howling is it's good, but it's not great. I guess you could say, in terms of effects. I love the overall werewolf design. I feel like Underworld kind of ripped it off later on. Just the way the werewolves look. It's to me one of my favorite on-screen werewolves I've ever seen. But the transformation effects really actually come off as a crude version of what was done in Landis's movie, which, knowing this now, makes a heck of a lot more sense. Other things, I wonder how much of the what we're going to do with the werewolf transformation had been thought about and put in before the movie was shot, because it looks like whatever Bottin was left with is very similar to American Werewolf, because I remember hearing Baker talk about in American Werewolf he wanted the last thing to change to be the snout, because that's going to dehumanize the face the most. And in the transformation scene in The Howling, the last thing to change is the snout. And the idea of it being a painful looking or sounding transformation. In The Howling, it seems less painful. In American Werewolf, it seems very painful, but it definitely doesn't sound comfortable. The one thing that really strikes me as not good, really, with the Howling transformation is the pulsating of the face. There's just like little obvious air bladders under the skin, just pulsating it out and moving it back and forth, and it just seems like it's supposed to be gross for gross effect. Maybe it's almost supposed to be like boiling kind of the flesh, but it doesn't come off as that. It just comes off with latex being blown up by bubbles. That's all I can really think of. But it's still a good enough movie. My other problem, of course, is the fact that, spoiler alert, Dee Wallace turns into a Pomeranian at the end. I don't know why all the other werewolves look exactly the same, but she gets to turn into a Pomeranian. I don't get it. And Monday's movie, because I am officially done with Carrie. I've seen every freaking Carrie movie ever made. I started watching The Descent, and I haven't finished it yet. I'm once again very behind. Wouldn't be this marathon without me getting behind, I guess. But I don't like it. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've heard a lot of praise for it from other people on the internet, but I was looking at the clock. I'm like, all right, it's over an hour into this movie, and we're barely just getting to the creatures. And in my mind, a horror movie, we're looking for the creatures. We want to see the creatures, and just for taking so long, it just bored me. I am not the kind of person that goes and watches movies about people climbing through caves and having disasters. I don't like that stuff. I don't get off on watching people go and explore places and get trapped and have to survive on their wits or whatever. It just isn't a genre I'm into, and because that's what the first hour of this damn movie was, just had very hard time paying attention to it. Just not enjoying it. Now that the creatures are on screen, it's a little more enjoyable. They're cool looking. I like the character design. I also wonder if there was trying to be some level of influence from The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, once again in here, because it's almost kind of the opposite effect of that movie. That movie having an all male cast in an isolated environment with a monster. This one being an all female cast in an isolated environment with a monster or many monsters. Maybe I'm thinking too much into that, but it's kind of interesting to see a horror movie where it's an all female cast for the most part. Obviously, there are men in this movie, unlike John Carpenter's that had no women in it whatsoever. There are men in other parts, but not in the meat of the story, not where all these characters actually are. There's no main male leads. So, I don't know. Kind of interesting. I'm going to finish it up and I'll be back with my thoughts on it. I just finished The House of the Devil, and that was a pretty fun throwback to 70s, 80s horror, kind of Last House on the Left mixed with Rosemary's Baby kind of thing. I vaguely knew the plot. I knew that it was something about a satanic cult just from what I read about it on Netflix, but I really didn't know it was a throwback. I think I'd also heard that it had been released on VHS, at least review copies of it came out on VHS. I guess in the back of my head, maybe I knew it was going to be a throwback to old style movies, but I didn't realize how much it was going to be, and it was actually a lot of fun to watch and kind of neat because they were able to build some tension with people not having cell phones and having to leave messages and things like that. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing, but it really kind of helps make the movie a little creepier to not have technology at your fingertips all the time. And I really liked it. It took a little while to get to the actual scary part. It really only happened, it all happens at the end. There's not a whole lot in the middle that's that creepy, and really I think it's no more creepy than the reality of being in somebody else's house and basically being alone or mostly alone and just kind of being weirded out by sounds and sights and stuff. Unusual, it's not your normal surroundings, but the characters and the interactions were entertaining enough that I think it was worth it. I enjoyed watching it. I'll probably watch it again someday. It definitely wasn't that bad at all. So now I'm going to go on to John Carpenter's The Fog. As usual, as it seems these last few weeks, I am super backlogged, so I'm trying to get through 3 movies today just to get everything out of the way. I might have to do tomorrow's movie today too if I have time, because Halloween party got moved to tomorrow or Friday, so I kind of just have to do everything. I don't think we have time to watch any movies tomorrow, so yeah, on to movie watching marathon of the day. Okay, so I finished The Fog, and what can I say? It was a movie I hadn't seen before, but I've seen John Carpenter's work before, and it was very much John Carpenter's work. It was such a John Carpenter movie. It wasn't even funny, but it was decent. Not one of my favorites of his. It doesn't really seem to have kind of hold up in a modern way. I think The Thing was really a game changer for Carpenter. And really, this movie kind of feels exactly like what it is a film that's right in between The Thing and Halloween. Halloween, of course, had a lot of suspense elements to it, a lot of clever shots to it. The Thing had the great effects and being able to see the monster clear as day. This seemed like it really kind of was very much the line in between those two, and not for the better, I don't think. Not a bad movie, but just not anything that is just, wonderful and you have to go watch it right now type thing. But it got me thinking about, something I've realized through this movie marathon this month, and I may have already brought it up, but the list I put together this month has a lot of connections with actors and many different movies and being reused throughout and everything like that, which kind of surprised me, to be honest. I wasn't really anticipating that. Heck, with The Fog here, it even shares some characters in a weird way, because John Carpenter plays a character in this movie named Bennett at the very beginning. Apparently it was based on his friend Bennett Tramer, and Ben Tramer is Laurie's crush in the original Halloween and the guy wearing a Michael Myers mask that gets hit by a car in the sequel. So there's a connection for you. Obviously a lot of reused actors between The Fog and Halloween. Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. Tom Atkins is in it. I don't think I have another Tom Atkins movie scheduled this month, but I'll probably end up watching Halloween 3 at some point. Adrienne Barbeau, another actress I don't have on my list officially for anything else that I know of, but I'm probably going to be watching Swamp Thing fairly soon here because it is next for now playing, and I know she's in that. House of the Devil had Dee Wallace in it, which The Howling also had Dee Wallace, and I watched the Rob Zombie Halloween earlier this month. That had Dee Wallace in it. Intentional ones like Chloe Grace Moretz and Let Me In and Carrie, that was intended. Obviously, I picked two Vincent Price movies specifically. But the more I've been going through this, and I know I'm leaving a lot of people out. Oh, the chick from, the lead from Ginger Snaps is in the 2002 remake of Carrie. Like I said, I know I'm leaving a lot of stuff out because I had these all in my head. Now I can't think of them. But yeah, a lot of actors showing up multiple times in this marathon, which is kind of interesting. Oh, in The Fog, there was also a character named Dr. Phibes, and you know what I just watched on Saturday. But after watching The Fog, I'm officially caught up to today, Thursday, and I just need to watch Thursday's movie to be official. So that's the remake of Psycho. Fortunately, that is still on Netflix. So that's 2 out of the 4 movies I'm trying to get through today that actually are on Netflix. The Fog used to be, and then it went away. But House of the Devil I was able to watch, and now Psycho, unless it's gone off since last night when I checked to make sure it was still there. And like I said, I'll see if I can get Amityville Horror in here just because I think I'm going to need to if I want to try to not fall behind again. So, yeah, the remake of Psycho. I kind of owe my friend, not an apology, I'm not going to freaking apologize, but you know what? On Facebook, I posted, as I kind of alluded to in the last segment of the video, that I was kind of marathoning through all the movies I, written about on my personal Facebook, and I had that on my list of what I was watching that day, and my friend basically told me, it's like, oh yeah, enjoy those, except for the Psycho remake, and I jokingly, just being a jerk, came back like, oh, what if I want to enjoy it? And yeah, I don't think you can. I don't think it's possible to enjoy that movie. It's a thoroughly unenjoyable film. It's the same film, again, in color, just missing the artistry of the original. It's nearly a shot-for-shot remake. It's just not good. It's just not good at all. I don't recommend watching it. It's funny, though, because I was talking about in the Carrie remake that Julianne Moore should be in more horror films. Well, there she was, not being all that impressive. Then again, I think she's better. I liked her in Carrie as evil, and the antagonist. Come on, Lila Crane has always been a thankless role in Psycho. You're not the star of the movie, even though you're the one who comes in and helps save the day. It was never going to be a great role no matter what, I don't think. Then after that, watched Amityville Horror, and I feel bad because I didn't really enjoy it that much, and I think that has less to do with the movie than it does with me. I've seen so many horror films. I've seen so many in the genre, so many ghost movies, especially lately. I mean, look at it. All the Blumhouse movies that are out, the Paranormal Activities, the Dark Skies, Sinister, Insidious, all of those. I mean, it's an epidemic now, and it's obviously been done to death before that in many different works in all different cultures. And a lot of the things that were trying to be creepy in Amityville, I've seen it done better more recently with better technical effects, better suspense, better whatever. It is what it is. You have to appreciate it as being an early form of this. But come on, I mean, even going back further, there's examples of haunted house movies that have a lot of the same things. So it's not like they were truly innovators. They just really capitalized on, one of those ripped from the headlines kind of horror movie, which a lot of people do. And, whatever. It worked for Texas Chainsaw, purportedly based on a true story. Ironic that Psycho was closer to the true story than Texas Chainsaw ever was, but yeah, the whole Ed Gein thing, even the real Ed Gein movies aren't really that true to the actual story. But yeah, I think it's just a movie that if I'd seen it back in the 70s, if I'd been even alive in the 70s, I might have enjoyed it. And I didn't not enjoy it, I just wasn't impressed. Friday was my Halloween party, and I did some crazy, ridiculous decorating of the condo, and I'll insert some of that footage right here.
Alright, so this is the inside of Dracula's Pub for Year 2, or Son of Dracula's Pub. The dark, ominous hallway. My cardboard tunnel somewhat falling apart now. You can barely even see it, but handprints and blood splatter on the wall.
And welcome back to the real world. Saturday movie of the day was Hostel, a movie I'd never seen, mostly because I've never been much of a fan of the torture porn genre. Saw, yeah, Saw's never been a favorite of mine. I've enjoyed watching a few of them. I mean, the first two I enjoy. I think the first three I kind of enjoy, but beyond that, it got a little just ridiculous. And I always thought that Hostel and Saw were two movies that were the forerunners of the genre. They were talked about in the same breath. And Hostel was a completely different creature. Hostel wasn't that crazy with the gore. Alright, I'm going to say it wasn't that crazy with the gore. I am so jaded when it comes to gore in movies. Freaking look at, I mean, Hatchet is one of my all-time favorite modern horror movies. And just look how bloody and gross and disgusting that is. I mean, it is what it is. I'm so used to a higher form of over-the-top violence in horror movies that, while Hostel may have been a little more quote-unquote realistic, it wasn't enough for me. And to be honest, it's a 90-minute movie, and 30 minutes in, nothing has happened. You've set up the characters, and I guess that's important, because if you're going to torture people, you kind of have to give a crap about them, I guess. But nothing creepy had happened. It's just them touring around Europe. I thought I was watching the Travel Channel. And Saturday night, just to put a capper on the week, I ended up watching Insidious 2. Kind of had a really lazy day on Saturday recovering from the party, and of course, you know how it goes. By like 7, 8 o'clock at night, you're ready to actually go out and do something for the day. And went out, hung out with some people, and went and saw Insidious 2. The three of us, and there were, I think, two other people in the theater. Obviously, the movie's been out for a while now, so I'm late to the party on that one. But I liked it better than the first one. The first one kind of left me cold. Kind of was already talking about that Blumhouse style. It's this style of just pure intensity that is supposed to be creepy. It's just like scary, 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 intense, whatever. Creepy noises, creepy things happening, and without anything else to really balance that out, I always feel like those movies lack. They don't have a soul to them in a way. I think a lot of horror movies work in the fact that you catch the audience off guard. If you're putting them on edge constantly, they're just going to be in one place for the whole movie. You put them on edge, and then you make them laugh, and then you scare them. Then you get this a huge change in reaction. You go from one extreme to the other. And I think that's much more effective. You put people in a safe place, and then you scare them. You don't just be like creepy, 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 boo. It's not as effective. It really isn't. So the first one kind of left me cold. I've seen it twice now. Once in theaters when it came out, and once fairly recently on demand. But 2 I liked a little more. Some of the things they bring up in it are complete BS. It's just the reason. It's a movie that the beginning is that creepy, 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 creepy boo crap that I complained about already, but the end of it almost becomes like an action movie, and it's mostly just because they're trying to explain crap from the first movie, and not really liking the first movie all that much. I guess I was willing to accept what probably really is a subpar explanation for anything in the first movie, but it felt fine. I wasn't like offended by where they went with it, and then it kind of was just an action movie that totally ripped off Psycho and The Shining, which is kind of pathetic, but I mean, it worked well enough. I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it again, but caught it on demand on a lazy Saturday afternoon with nothing better to watch. There's worse things you could do than turn it on and watch it. One quick thing, I don't think I'm going to bring up anything too spoilery. There's a scene later, I said it was a lot like The Shining. There is a direct, might as well have been the same scene. People in a room hiding from a killer busting down the door with an axe. Oh wait, not an axe. Wait, an axe would be too much like The Shining. They went the complete other way. So you have a fire axe in The Shining. Here we just went with a fire extinguisher. Yeah, really, it's just like you just went back to the fire truck and what else can we hit the door with? But that wraps up week 4, and short week next week. Just cranking out those last few movies on my list. Almost done with this marathon. What the heck am I going to watch when I'm done with this? I'm going to watch things that aren't horror movie? I can't even imagine. I mean, I guess the Christmas decorations are already out in stores. Maybe I'll just go back and start watching Santa's Sleigh, Silent Night, Deadly Night. All those fun, wonderful Christmas horror movies. Maybe I'll do that.